All right, so you don't know Parship because that is a very German thing. We also own eHarmony, so if you're in the UK, I hope you know eHarmony if you're from the US. So what do we do? Online dating, that's not all we do, but I want to educate a little bit on what our group is about because there's a lot going on in the market and also in the mind of people. So before I do that, I will bore you a little bit with who we are. And basically, online dating is online, but one of the first things that happened to internet when it came up. Why? Because it's a fundamental human need to meet some people. And this means that a lot of circles of consolidation happened in the market over the course of years. And while my badge, I don't have it with me, says startup, scale up, our company alone is 23 years old. So it's not really a startup, and I don't know if you can call it scale up still. But when you look at the market, we have multiple brands now. We started with Parship in Germany, then we acquired brand after brand, and today we serve consumers from meeting, so just casual meeting, maybe finding friends, to falling in love, which would be the Parship or eHarmony case. There is a large industry behind that, and there is a large group or two large groups out there with the Match Group and Bumble that you might know from hits like Tinder or Hinge in case of the Match Group, or Bumble, which is a little bit, has multiple brands, but is really much structured around their main app, Bumble. So without going any further through the market, I think we have a very attractive portfolio with what I come to in just a second, what we think where the market is developing, because we go really from finding friends to finding the love of your life. And in the end, the entire market is shooting for something like that. Just some facts about us. We're pretty sizable with having a bit more than 400 million euros in revenue last year. And with that being the number 3 in the world, I just mentioned the two large groups that come from the US. Speaking of the US and what we're very proud of, coming from this very, very particular German company, German brand, we've managed to build a business out of Hamburg, Germany, that today has almost 60% of its revenues coming from the US, which for a German company, I think is something to be proud of. And we're scaling that in the US as well. That's our ambition. Diversified in terms of revenue sources. We have subscriptions, as you might know, from dating. So whoever was on dating apps, typically you have subscription businesses. But we have, and I come to that in a second, a meeting, more like on the meet side, a live streaming business which forms communities where it's a lot around gifting revenues, as well as you might know it from gaming like with Twitch or from other social media companies and brands. We are very profitable, so we're not a startup. We're not here to search for venture capital. And we look at a market that can only grow. That being said, and I come to that now, a growing market means that there is demand, and there's huge demand, and demand will grow. But we have to take care of our industry and of our segment for multiple reasons. Where I don't go too much into detail, we started in 2001, we start here in 2012 in the presentation. Basically, we acquired multiple brands. We've been part of private equity companies in the past, sold, had multiple transactions. Today, we're a majority shareholding of a German media company, ProSiebenSat.1 Media, and have General Atlantic as growth investor in. And while we came out of COVID and the different crises that we had in the world, with some kind of strategic work to be done, we're looking now at the market and the opportunities that we see in there. So what do we do, and what is our ambition and our goal? When you look at the world, the number one thing when you go to conferences, when you speak to psychologists and other researchers, is that loneliness is a big threat for the world. Why is that? Yes, we have digital tools, we have social media, we have dating apps, but in the end it's very digital, and we're living in a very connected world, but a lot of people feel very disconnected in this connected world. And that is something that becomes more and more transparent. And when you look at what that means for people, the number one risk for mortality that you can have is when you're lacking social connection. So that is kind of interesting. If you're socially connected, and I'm not advising that, but if you're socially connected, you can smoke up to 15 cigarettes a day before you get to a mortality chance that you would have if you're not connected, if you're feeling lonely. And that is interesting because that is not really something that is tackled in the markets. And I'm not saying we're there yet as a company to actually tackle that, but that just provides a lot of demand. At the same time, when we look at our market, and you can look at news in the US, us as dating companies, we've done a tremendously good job in scaling a business in the past 20 years, in monetizing, and also providing dates and such. But in the end, actually looking at that point and really, really capturing that demand, we can be better there. What we're currently doing to get better there, and that's just the start, is really building that portfolio and focusing on the multiple aspects on bringing people together in terms of feeling connected. So we have that live video streaming business, which is more entertaining but builds communities. It's not fan-based in terms of I'm looking up to some kind of influencer, but it's really interaction between people. And you could see it as a social, like people-oriented Twitch. We monetize mainly via gifts, and we have more than 750,000 creators there, where the main ones are even subscribable and have a huge community behind them. That's the meeting part. The dating part, and there we started with our German brand there, we're focusing on creating dates. The goal is not to have as much retention in the app as possible. The goal is to really get people on physical dates and get them to feel connected with people. And if you do that, you have a sustainable business. And then in the end, we have, let's say, eHarmony or Parship as matchmaking services where it's really about a healthy way to find the love of your life. So not keeping people in the app as long as possible, but making them, enable them to find the love of their life, which is not necessarily something you're looking for, and this is why we have the entire portfolio there. When we look at video, that is a very interesting part of our business. We just moved to a point where we did our own brands. We enabled our own brands. We had kind of a B2B aspect where we incorporated our solution into other apps. We stopped that to a large extent to follow up on that, but focus on our own brands. And what you see there is that there is a demand. Where do we go from here? We have a huge journey in front of us. We went through disruptive times during COVID. We went through multiple integrations we had with those brands. I don't want to get into detail, but where do we want to go? In the end, we have two things we are working on: dating and social dating, and then the video part. Matchmaking, social dating, and the video part. Finding love, finding dates, finding a community. Those are the three things, and what we do in terms of integration is build a company that can enable all of that, building platforms, building teams, building capabilities. And we have a lot of that, and I think we have the best ones in the market. And when you look at that, that enables you for other companies to be enabled by that, to add further brands onto those platforms. And this is in addition to how we tackle the market with our own brands. That is really the goal, to be the enabler and also an attractive company for young brands in that segment to work with us. That's us. And with that, we want to make lives less lonely, and this is our long-term strategy to have an impact in the world. And hopefully in 5 years' time, I stand here and can share some results on how less lonely the world is. Thank you.